Jazz is a direct outcome of the construction and the foundation of America. When Europeans colonized America, they went to West Africa and they brought these West Africans over here and they enslaved them. But the West Africans brought with them their traditions and their practices. And one of their very important, notable traditions that's special to jazz music is the West African rhythms. So in West Africa, the music was very percussive and very rhythmic. It was all about the drums, you know, the djembe and the kora, which was a melodic instrument, but it was still played very percussively. And they especially did this cool thing that we call polyrhythms. And polyrhythms is when you have one type of rhythm happening and then you have a totally different rhythm happening at the exact same time. In some kind of way, they seem to coincide. And so this was special to the West African culture. Also, they had a little bit of what we call today call and response. So if one drummer was playing something, then the other drummer would play something, and they would just call and respond to each other back and forth, back and forth. Both of these are very important to what we know as jazz today. Check out this video of me and Marcus Miller doing some call and response here. Another important aspect of jazz music is the blues. So the form of the chords of the blues is simple. It's usually just 3 chords. But the spirituality of it, the tonality of it, where they're bending notes, this was complex. The songs were about the hardships that the African Americans were facing, whether it be racism, inequality, working conditions, etc., etc. And this style of singing, this style of playing, became very important to jazz music. Now I want to talk about ragtime. So ragtime was this syncopated style of playing. And a syncopation is when you don't play the rhythm right on beat. It's like you put a little hop and a skip in it. You know, you're a little early or you're a little late. Very similar to the West African polyrhythms that I was talking about earlier. This was mainly played on piano, mainly upbeat, fun, jovial music. And Scott Joplin was like one of the main guys who wrote this ragtime and played it very well. Since I talked about the blues earlier and now I'm talking about ragtime, I want you to check out this blues that I played in a ragtime style. Check it out. So now I want to talk about New Orleans, and specifically a place called Congo Square. New Orleans was a melting pot. It was colonized by the French and by the Spanish, so it had a lot of culture with these Africans in there as well. It's just a lot going on. So at the specific time that I'm talking about, they had stopped all the enslaved people from playing the drums and making their music because they realized that they were communicating this way and they didn't want to be overran. So in efforts to convert them to Christianity, they gave the slaves one day, and that was Sunday, where they could go out to Congo Square and they could praise and worship and dance. And this was the gumbo that really created jazz, and specifically a character named Buddy Bolden. Buddy Bolden was a cornet player, and he was noted for his loud playing and his improvisational skills. And he combined all the elements that we've been talking about. The syncopation of ragtime, the inflection and the impurities of the blues, and also the European harmonies. This was definitely the first era of jazz, and we called it New Orleans jazz.